Canada's out of the World Cup. We get discuss it next on Beyond the Locker Room. So the Canadians are out of the World Cup. It's been a great ride. What a ride it's been. And, they lose 3-0 to Morocco today. Morocco's ranked 6th in the world. So they really, in the first half, they really were actually taking it to Morocco in my mind. But they just could not capitalize those first 15, 20 minutes before the first hydration break. You got to cash in on those chances because, Morocco might have had maybe at best 4 shots. And they were they hit 2 goals, they hit 3 goals on 4 shots or 5 shots. Like, their efficiency was incredible. And I think, Canada just had to find a way. And I think, when you get these moments, a team's done so much, they kind of, in some ways overachieve. They will move up in the FIFA rankings after this. But you do wonder a little bit. Jesse Marsh knows more about football than I do my big toe. But I do wonder a little bit, like, why Larry didn't start today, because you're going to need more chances and more attacking players. And I just think that whenever they've had that lineup with David as the feature and playing with O'Shea, it just hasn't resulted in offense. And he keeps going back to it, and he went back to it in this case for this. So that was very puzzling. At least he didn't play Miller, which I thought was a good move. He put Ahmed back in. But, not have Laren out there, especially if you knew already before the game, which obviously you would know, that you're not going to get anything out of Davies today. That's very disappointing that didn't happen. I'm not going to be on there like, Sid Sixero and start killing the guy in this case. Like, oh, why didn't you play? Why you come on the team? I was like, they thought he'd be ready to play for this tournament. He came and gave it a go for 15 minutes. I guess based on those 15 minutes against South Africa, might have been too taxing on his body at this point, and they shut him down again, it seems like. And it's unfortunate. I would love to see what this full team would look like, but hey, man, that's sports. So I think the Canadian national team, the men's Canadian national team, for a great ride for about 2-3 weeks. It's been fun, and I don't want to kind of be on here ragging about this and that. So as I said before, I'll keep it short for that standpoint. I enjoyed the run. I thought they helped grow the game, and they have a lot of young players that, when 4 years from now, you got to expect that they'll be in the World Cup again. They have a great foundation with Bombito, Bombito, Kone, Ahmed. They got a lot of young fellas in this case. Here's Sigur. They have a good set of talent. I think where Canadian national team have to go to next in Canadian soccer overall on the men's side is still kind of continue to try to develop the skill to work on developing strikers and guys can break open a game. And I think it's the next phase of Canadian football of how they could do so, to kind of have more game breakers. And that's tough because you're competing from an athletic standpoint. You're competing with a lot of other sports, right? A lot of great athletes will play basketball or play hockey or play whatever, tennis. Like, so like, for example, Steve Nash was a great soccer player when he was younger, a football player when he was younger, but he ended up choosing basketball, right? That's where the competition with the other sports happen, like, where you will lose athletes at that point for other sports, perhaps, and that's where they're at the fight for that, to see if, like, when they're into those nurturing ages, 14, 13, 15, 12, like around, anything from 10 to 15, can you get those young, talented athletes to commit? Like how the women's side pretty much, I'm not saying completely, but I think the women's side have gotten like the top tier talented women to get into football. And I think that's where the men's side, which, they've come from a little further out, because there's just more opportunities for a lot of boys to play different type of sports. It's catching up with the women and the girls side, obviously, but that's where football or soccer is kind of like not the same level or rung as it is on the women's side or the girls side, where it's like, soccer, football is like up here for female athletics. For guys in North America, or at least in Canada, it's like kind of down here. Not like completely at the bottom, but it's moving up, but it's not in the top tier for athletic prowess for the guys. In this case, that would still be hockey. That will still be basketball to some extent, baseball. So this is where, the next phase of this development of this program has to go to. But hey, man, I tip my cap to Jesse Marsh. I tip my cap off to the Canadian men's national team. It was a wonderful ride. Thank you so much for this. Sometimes you get the dog days of summer, so you always feel like, well, after NBA free agency, the Jays and the baseball going to the All-Star break, there's not much going on, but boy, this World Cup overall has been fantastic, and Canada's kind of written their chapter beautifully in this story. So I'll leave it there on that front, folks, and therefore blessed to those guys for giving us quite a ride. Next, I want to get into just kind of where things start now, because we're in the knockout stage. Obviously, Canada's eliminated now. We're down to Sweet 16. France had just won, so they've taken out Paraguay. So now we're down to, we're down essentially now to, I guess, 14 teams now. Let me see here, 6, 8. We got here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, 14 with the two and one. So 14 teams remaining. Brazil, Norway coming up, and Mexico, England coming up tomorrow. Woo-wee! When this comes out, they'll be playing probably, possibly. So that's gonna be fantastic. I can't wait for that Mexico England match. We see two, kind of following two African nations got through the Sweet 16 in Egypt and Morocco. Morocco's into the quarterfinals now. 3 CONCACAF teams are in the Sweet 16. Canada's the first one to be eliminated. I must admit, I do like Mexico's chances against England. Brazil, Norway. Come on, you gotta go with Brazil. Portugal, Spain. Woo-wee. I like Spain, but Portugal's a resourceful team, but give me Spain on that one. USA, Belgium. I tell you, I don't know how the Red Devils survived at Senegal. They had no business being here. They found a way to win, so give them full credit. Balogun is going to be out with the red card. That's a big loss for the Americans. But on home soil, USA tends to play well on home soil. It doesn't matter what the sport is. So you know what? And considering Belgium's never really been able to deliver in big moments, I'm going to take USA. Argentina, Egypt, give me Argentina. And even though I must say, hey, shouts out to Cabo Verde. Oh, my goodness, man. If they pull that upset off, that would have been the greatest upset in World Cup history. And I think it just speaks once again to the running theme I've said for the entire tournament. As far as the African nations, they ain't scared of anybody anymore. They're going to continue to be a major threat in these World Cups moving forward. So Argentina, Egypt should not be taken lightly as if this is just like a cakewalk for Argentina. But I think you got to pick the defending champs to win that. And Switzerland, Colombia. Switzerland's a puzzling team. You don't know which Switzerland you get sometimes, but I think the Colombian talent is something that is impressive, even though sometimes they do some crazy stuff too, but kind of like Colombia on that one. So to wrap it up, give me Colombia, Argentina, USA, Spain, Mexico, Brazil. That's who I have. And of course, Morocco's favored as well as France, so the favorites took care of business today. So hey, man, keep enjoying the football, soccer, wherever you want to call it, man. It's been great. One locker room take. This is just a thank you. Thank you to the city of Toronto. Love my city, man, and it came through big time in this tournament. I mentioned it partially there a few weeks. I think it's like my second or my first World Cup, maybe it was the second World Cup podcast. I think discussing the atmosphere that has been generated from BMO Field, or Toronto Stadium as they're calling it for FIFA. And I don't know if FIFA wants to consider this when they look at the next places where they're hosting to try to find maybe more like, I guess in FIFA terms. I mean, I guess technically this is like a size of a stadium that would be an EPL perhaps, but it was really great to see it play out. Like, it was like 40,000, 45,000, and maybe how the stanchions and how the stands are built, because I've been to that stadium, it's pretty steep already to begin with. So when you add the stanchions, like another 10, 15,000 more people, it's really on top of you. I said before, it felt kind of like how you would have if you look at college basketball, like Cameron Indoor Arena, where it's a very small arena. It's not a Dean Dome. It's not, it's not Rupp Arena, but because it's so tight and insular, the crowd, the crazies are on top of you. And I think that same type of atmospherics were produced in Toronto And shouts out, man. I mean, pretty much almost every game had some type of interesting drama. The crowd was into it. I mean, Germany, Ivory Coast was fantastic. The Ghana one, I think, really is the one where my eyes got opened up like, whoa, there's something special, something different happening in this arena versus any other stadiums that we've been watching, be it if they're in Mexico or the States, or even Vancouver. I find the indoor arenas give a bit of a sanitized feel to it. You know, be if it's Houston, Dallas is pseudo a dome kind of. Vancouver, it's not quite the same as is outdoor, but then you throw in the closeness and intimacy that BMO Field offers. You know, throw in the Lake Shore and the Lake Ontario. It had an amazing setting, and then for it to cap off with that unbelievable spectacle with Portugal and Croatia, two legends. One goes home. You can ask for nothing else. You could ask for nothing else. VAR was the third. It was the mistress, the third member of the party. You could say, you know, Ronaldo scores, then he doesn't score, then he does score again. Croatia thought they scored and tie it up at the last minute. Then it's like, no, it had everything in it, man. It had everything in it. That's over four, man. Well done, Toronto. I had my doubts, but boy, you pulled it off in spades, man. Anyways, man, I'm gonna leave it there. Keep enjoying the soccer, keep enjoying the football, whatever you want to call it. Just keep enjoying the World Cup. It's been fantastic. And as always, guys, you can find me on IG, Facebook, X, and of course on Blue Sky. And you can find me right here on YouTube. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. It's for free, guys. Anyways, guys, take care. Be safe. Watch yourself in this heat, guys. We'll talk next time. Peace.